Good evening and welcome to another episode of Mindful Conversations. I am Dr. Lori Monaco with Align Yourself, Inc. I am a life coach and specializing in transformation and mindfulness practice. And I am also known as the Badass Buddha. I'm so glad you are here this evening. We have a very special guest tonight. All my guests are special and they're all wonderful and they all are just absolutely fabulous. What else would they be on the show? I mean, otherwise. So they're all absolutely fabulous. So I'd like to introduce you to this amazing and powerful businesswoman, international speaker, author, and outright badass woman, I might say, Jen DuPlessis. I'm going to read her bio now. Jen is America's Mortgage Mastery Mentor, which is fabulous because you know how tricky all that can be for people such as myself who know nothing about that type of stuff. She's recognized as an influencer in her industry as the best-selling author of Launch, How to Take Your Business to New Heights. Love the title, by the way. Host of the top-ranked podcast Mortgage Lending Mastery, and is a highly sought-out and charismatic international speaker, speaking on stages with such icons as Darren Hardy, Tony Robbins, and Les Brown. Les Brown's one of my faves. During 15 of her 37-year career in the mortgage industry, Jen was listed in the top 1% of loan officers nationwide and spent 3 years in the elite top 200 of nationally ranked originators. She has funded over $1 billion in mortgage loans. She works with mortgage loan officers and real estate professionals who are overwhelmed, stressed out, and sabotaging their personal lives for the sake of their business to help them multiply their results in record time and while having the courage to say yes to their personal lives, which sometimes means saying no to clients, which makes Jen perfect for this conversation, because it's all about balance and mindfulness and self-care. Today, Jen is passionate about empowering residential mortgage loan officers and real estate professionals to achieve professional and personal breakthroughs that stop the daily chaos by advising them in identifying their priorities to enable calmness and to take back control of their business and life. She is guiding she's guiding her coaching students to attract clients rather than chasing them away. That's beautiful. And lastly, she is devoted to helping each student's business grow exponentially rather than hitting the reset button to have the same results year after year. She has been seen and heard on Good Morning America, Sirius XM Radio, Voice America, and Mortgage News Network. Jen has been featured in publications such as the Wall Street Journal and the Washington Post, is a regular contributor to Mortgage Executive Magazine and Mortgage Women Magazine, and has been recognized with the Women with Vision Award as one of the top 20 most powerful women in the mortgage industry. See, I told you she was a badass. Jen, thank you so much for being here tonight. How are you?
I'm great, Lori. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I am so excited to share whatever it is you're going to ask me in the time that we have here today. I'm absolutely delighted to be here.
That's great. And you're coming from Northern Virginia, right?
Yep, right outside of DC. Yep, outside of Washington, DC. Actually, I'm way out in the country, way outside of DC. I'm at the bottom of the Appalachian Trail in the Blue Ridge Mountains on 21 acres in horse country.
Nice.
Yeah.
I was actually, where I used to live in South Carolina was right in the northwest corner. So
yeah.
Very close to the North Carolina border, very close, not that far. So we were always in the Appalachian Mountains. We were always like hiking in those areas.
Hiking, yeah. Well, we don't do much hiking right now because we have a big bear contingency going on right now. So we haven't been doing much, even in our own property. There's a lot of bears around. So we've just been kind of laying low, and thank goodness COVID's kept us in because, but normally we'd be up there. I love walking in the woods and participating in nature, love it.
Is that common in your property to have bears? Like, is that just kind of?
Well, it's funny. We've lived here for 16 years in a couple days. It'll be 16 years. And you know, it wasn't until last year that I saw a bear walk, matter of fact, right where I'm sitting right now, walk right in front of my office, about a 450 pound bear. And we're just seeing a lot more of them now. So I don't know if it's COVID related or not, but, you know, we have a lot more foxes, and we have lots of foxes and deer anyway, but lots of bunnies, lots of squirrels. I mean, just everything's coming out, lots of snakes now too, but it's part of the country. You know, that's part of what you get when you live in the country, you know, as you get to see all these, you know, that's why we love being here. I'd rather look at these things rather than looking at buildings.
I totally agree with you. And the interesting thing is I'm in Connecticut and I live in suburbs. I mean, we're totally suburbs. And we have resident coyotes that's, you know, I fox walking through the yard the other day, twice, 2 days in a row. We always have deer, all the other critters. And coincidentally, two of my neighbors were talking outside one day, this was a couple weeks ago, and a black bear walked through the neighborhood. We have never, ever bear. So that's why I thought that was really interesting when you said that. You're right. Yeah. Something must be triggering them to come out. Oh.
Yeah, there must be. There was some actor online too. They are on the news I saw where he was riding his bike and they caught, you know, on camera or whatever camera, but he was riding his bike or his scooter or something, and a bear with her cubs were right around the side of a car, and he threw his scooter and ran, and they have it all on video, and it's like, gosh, you know, it's there too. So yeah, it must be something that's happening, you know. And I mean, they're harmless as long as you don't hurt them, you know, they're harmless, but still, you know, me against a big bear, I don't know. I don't want to take the chance.
Oh no, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So let's get started because listen, you are a busy, busy lady. And you know, the whole purpose of the show is to really focus on celebrating our abilities to just step into our greatness and do and be the most amazing version of ourselves. But it's also about being mindful, about being everything that is mindfulness practice, being aware, being accountable, compassion, honoring self, knowing truth, but also balance and self-care. And especially when I have guests on that are just so busy. And you are a very busy lady, like doing a lot of different things. So you are a mom and a grandma. I love that. An entrepreneur, an author, an international speaker, and an influencer in your industry. So what do you do to ground yourself and create your balance?
Yeah. Well, I first have to say that I'm going to be a disruptor for a second. I don't believe in balance. The problem I have with balance is that you're balanced. And if you think about a scale, you know, if you're balanced, you're 50-50. You're still not genuinely 100% present or involved or focused in what you're doing. And if you imagine yourself standing on two boats, no boat gets any attention because you're still balancing it, and you're tired because you're trying to balance it, right? And so my thought process is to be all in, 100% focused, right? And that's why, you know, my montage is, you know, to work with focus so that you can play with passion. Because if you've ever planned for vacation and gotten ready for vacation, all of a sudden you're really, really focused and you're getting everything done and you get more clients, and then you think, oh, well, maybe I can't go on vacation because I have so many clients. But it's that intentional focused work, that laser focused work that allows you to be able to go on vacation. So if you do that every day, if you intentionally focus and know your goals, and we can talk about all that, and you know all that, then you're not doing activities in the sake of eating soup with a fork, right? You're just so busy and you're eating soup with a fork all day, and you come home and you say, gosh, I'm really tired. I think I did something. I don't know if I got anywhere. I don't know if I moved the needle on my business.
Yeah.
But rather, and you're not fulfilled, right? You're just genuinely not fulfilled. And so that is why I feel like, you know, what I like to do is be very intentional with what my work, get in, get out, and go do the things that I love to do every single day. So I go on vacation every single day.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Right? And for those that are listening, I'm doing, let me do air quotes, vacation every single day, right? I am, I'm a ballroom Latin and swing dancer. And on the opposite spectrum, I am an expert marks woman. And I love everything in between.
Love
Everything.
it.
And so I want to work and go play. And then tomorrow I work intentionally and on focus and then go play. So the key is, how do you start working more intentional to get the results faster?
That's fantastic, because really what you're saying is it's like you're condensing it. So being intentional allows you, obviously, to work smarter, not harder. So being intentional is in that moment of the day, or each day to day, you are condensing it so that you do have that, the word that you don't like, the balance, but you have, instead of it calling it balance, you say to yourself, okay, you can work, but then you can play today too. Instead of saying, you know what, I'm going to work today and I'm going to work tomorrow, and then I'll take off on Friday, or I'll play on Saturday. But you're basically saying, you know what, let's do it all. Because if you're very specific in what you're doing, very focused, then you will be extremely efficient, and then have that time. That's
exactly it. And I call it mastering your priorities, because when you master your priorities, you can master your life and your business. So it's what are your priorities? You know, and it's the Parkinson's law, right? The Parkinson's law, which is, and I'm paraphrasing it, is that if you're given all the time in the world to get something done, you'll take all the time in the world.
Yes.
But if you're given a certain period of time to get something done, and for me, the chase for me is, I only have a few hours to get all this done today to move the needle on my business so I can go play.
Yeah.
And I'm disciplined enough that I won't sacrifice that. And that's really where it all starts. And so to answer your question, about, how I ground myself is, through my core values, really identifying my core values. And unfortunately, I find that so many people can't identify their core values.
Yes.
They guess it. And I'll say, what are your core values? And someone say, family. And I'm thinking, well, is that a value or is that a question?
And it's a question. Exactly.
Right?
You know why? Because nobody's ever.
They don't sit down. Yeah.
They don't sit down, but the other thing is, nobody even ever asks. It's one of those unspoken things. I've learned this over the last few years with coaching is, when you say to somebody, what do you want? They're taken back a lot of times with that question.
Yeah, they don't know. Yeah.
And they'll go with the catch stuff. Like they'll go with the
faith, family. Stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And so from there you say, no, but go deeper than that. Like, what is it that you want? When you ask a child, what do you want? Or what do you want to be? Or they always have these great answers. They always have something. They rarely ever say, I don't know, under a certain age.
Right.
Teenager, forget it. Teenager will be like, I don't know. I know, I have one. But it's like that, and adults are the same way. And they say, well, I'm living my life, so I guess this is what I want. But then they're not.
No, they aren't. Yeah, no. Yeah.
Right.
And that's the problem. It's so upsetting for me to hear and see and watch people, really, and I use that word sabotage because they are sabotaging everything that's precious in their lives. And nobody sits on their deathbed and say, gosh, I wish I would have sent that extra email. They're on their deathbed saying, I wish I would have spent more time with my family. I wish I would have taken more care of my body.
Yes.
I wish I would have explored more. I wish I would have, grown a successful business if that's what they wanted. I wish I had better relationships. There's so many things that are so important. And we just, it's like skipping a stone, it's like we superficially live. We don't do anything that's digging deep. And so I really just believe that a life of values adds value everywhere in your life. And so, if you can identify your core values, which by the way, sometimes it's not just going, well, what are my values, and thinking about what they are. It's doing the opposite and saying, what really ticks me off about life? I hate when people aren't accountable. So accountability must be a core value.
Yeah.
For me personally, I'm really distraught about the fact that so many people, are moving away from Christianity, right? It bothers me. That's my core value. Now that may not bother you, so it's not your core value. So faith
Right.
is my number one core value.
Huh.
But I have another core value, and and I have 5 of them. But I have another core value, and that is stability. And it's stability of my time and stability of money. And so every decision that I'm making in my business, my practice, is in alignment with these core values. So if I'm going to, like you said in my bio, that sometimes it's choosing yourself over your clients. We have that tendency to just really overserve our clients and underserve our family and ourselves. And because of that, we're just very, just trying to think of that, but trying to think of the word for it. Oh gosh, it just drives me crazy. Again, it just drives me crazy because I want to be able to say, hey, if my family is really, really important to me, then I have to say no to that client tonight because, we tend to say, well, there'll be another recital. There'll be another baseball game. I'll
Yeah,
talk to my
not
clients.
another client.
Right. But there'll be another client too.
Yeah.
So you have to go to these things for your kids. And so
Yes.
every decision is around these core values, and it comes back tenfold. And I don't have just a speaking and coaching business. I have an Airbnb, I have real estate. So I have a lot of things going on, and every decision has to align with my core values to ensure that I am fulfilled.
And I think what it is too is that when we get to a certain age, we always think we have so much more time. We always think that okay, I'm just going to put this off, and I'm going to focus on this right now, and there'll be another time. There'll be another time. And you're right. It's like I have so many friends that have worked in nursing homes, have sat with these individuals in there, and people that didn't even know each other, friends of mine. And I would speak to one and speak to another, different time periods, and they would say the same thing. The people would say the same exact thing. I'm going to give you advice. Do not waste your life. If I could go back and change, do things differently, I would. And it's like one person saying it, and then so after a while, you have to say somebody has to be right about this. That living.
It's regret.
And then the other thing that was brilliant with what you said was that sometimes knowing what it is that you want, you first have to know what you don't want or what you don't connect with. I say that all the time when I give them an exercise and say, what's your wants? Put your want list together. And sometimes they'll go, I don't know what I want. And I'll say, okay, what don't you want? Because for some reason, always are really good about knowing that. But then there's this idea, well, the law of attraction says that you need to not focus on the don't want. That's not what we're saying. Just to identify. So you identify, okay, if I don't want this, that must mean I want this. And then you take that energy and you put it into the want. And I love how you said once you identify these things, you align it with
that business decisions
every single day. And
every single day.
How much effort does it take for you to do that?
It doesn't. It doesn't take any effort because I know my core values so well. But for someone else, what I help my clients with is, once we've identified them, we keep them close to us. They're in front of us all day. We have a sticky, we have a whatever. They're part of, our daily affirmations. The things that keep us grounded. Like, I do savers. From Hal Elrod's Miracle Morning, it's silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing, right? So that's how I keep myself grounded. But inside of all that, the silence is obviously prayer for me, right? The visualization is me thinking about through my, for my whole day is, I say this prayer every day saying, Lord, take me where you want me to go. Let me meet who you want me to meet. Tell me what you want me to say and keep me out of your way, right? And that's part of that visualization is like, who am I meeting and how can I serve them and how can I, and these are things that are important to, to me. So it's very easy for me to say, does this affect my faith, my family, and my accountability or my, what did I say before? My gosh, I'm just having my stability, right? Those are the things that I'm looking for. And so I can make faster decisions. If someone's asking me to buy a $50,000 course, I can make a very quick decision because I'm saying, well, how does that stabilize me, my family, my faith, everything? And I feel like I just make really, really better decisions, and I can make them faster too. And that saves time. It allows me to go play. I was going to tell you, this is so funny, as you were saying about, how we think that we have all this time in the world and everything. I did a live Facebook about maybe a month ago about how life is like a roll of toilet paper. Because, when you first start that roll of toilet paper, you kind of pick at it, and you get in it, and pieces break off, and then you get the wrong ply, and you got to kind of do it over again, and then you finally get it right, right? So that's like the learning, right? And then you finally get it right, and you just kind of roll along, and you don't think about it.
Right.
Until one day you pull on it, and the whole thing starts going, and you're like, no, slow down, right? And you're trying to reverse time, right? You're rolling it back up because too much came up, right?
Yeah.
And I just feel that that's what life is about, and I think I pecked at it for a really long time. And then I think I, had some big role because I went along a really long time thinking that I was doing it all right. But, then all of a sudden one day I pulled it and went, whoa, and I pulled it when I was, like 48, 50, something like that. And said, whoa, we have to stop this. So it doesn't happen at 70, it happens sooner, and hopefully it does for people, because
That's the whole point. That's the whole point. That's what you're doing.
Yeah.
What I do. That's what a lot of us do that are out there, because that's exactly right. You don't want, the worst thing to ever do is live with regret and live with a mundane life that you thought was what was supposed to be, but deep down you always regretted it, And I'll share a quick story, but this is about you. But
no, I'm fine.
My dad's a wonderful guy, and he's in his late 80s, and he's starting to, he's a little dementia kicking in, and he was always a jokester. He was an inventor. He had these great things and ideas that he came up with, but my dad just, he was always very fearful, and he didn't have a lot of great backup, from my mom. And my mom, she's also a great person, and they're still married to this day, but she didn't have the vision he did, and she was always also played very safely. And I saw my dad over the years just sort of waste away, like he just gave up. And it was so hard to watch it, because he just had it there, but he just didn't have enough for himself to push himself. And I look at that, and every time I see somebody else, like even with a client or just somebody I'm speaking to, I think of him, and I think of, what is it? Why are we here if we're not pushing ourselves to be the best version of ourselves and just play full, like you said, play all out.
Well, and you bring up a good point too. And I want to kind of go back to just the other part first, and then I'm going to address, what you just said about your father too, because my dad had a very unique saying for that. But my mom had said to me many, many years ago when we were on the phone, she said you have such a great quality of life, honey. You're always going to the opera, and, because I love culture. So I'm always going to the opera, and you're going to concerts, and you guys are traveling and doing all this stuff. And it hit me that, what do you mean I have this quality of life? And like her looking into my life was that it was all good. Everything was fine. There was nothing wrong. And to a certain extent, that's what people do on Facebook too. It's like, oh, look at my greatness. And we're all comparing ourselves to these people. And I realized that, it wasn't a quality of life that I was looking for. What it was is that I was looking for a life of quality. And there's a really unique difference between the two.
That. Yeah.
And so it's not the quality of life and keeping up with the Joneses and reaching your goals. And yes, it includes reaching your goals and having things, right? I get that. And getting success to whatever capacity that is for someone. But if you can have a life of quality along the way, instead of just the numbers and the trophies and all those things, I think that you would be much happier in your life. And so, that's just how I feel. But my dad used to say something. He'd say, honey, I'd rather wear out than rust out.
Yes.
And so for me, it's
fantastic.
Unfortunately, in the United States, we rust out. You know, we
Yeah.
have 3 to 5 years of dealing with cancer, dealing with whatever, and we tend to rust out, right? Or our bodies give out because we don't take care of ourselves.
Yeah.
And so we rust out. And there's no other country that rusts out like we do.
Hmm.
It's amazing. And we just don't wear out. And it's because we're so honed in on success, success, success. And it means working more, more, more. And if you look at every other country, they take naps during the day, right? Right?
No.
And we're the only ones that are just like,
Yeah.
and no wonder we wear out and we have heart attacks and we have all these crazy things, you know, is because we haven't figured out a better way to do it. It's like, oh, it's the American dream. So we have to fight for it and go, go, go.
Yes.
And there is a better way to do it. There just
Yeah.
is.
I think the mindset has changed so much over the last, I would say, even, I'm going to be as bold to say as the last 10 years, maybe 15, where people just said, you know, it's not enough. Like the 80s mindset of success was always, oh, you know, how big is your office? How much money are you making? What's your level in your corporate, in the industry that you're in?
Mm-hmm.
But your home life is awful. Your kids can't stand you. Well, but that's all right. That's not part of success. And I think, you know, over the last decade, it's become more of an abundance. It's like success is across the board. If you're not successful in multiple parts of your life, then you can't count just being successful in your industry, being very wealthy. That's not true.
Right. And it's not happiness.
And it's what, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
It's not happiness. I mean, it
Yes.
definitely is not happiness either.
Right.
You know, I live in the richest county in the United States of America. And there is an enormous amount of competition for McMansions, cars, you know, all that stuff. And I think that because I live here, you know, for years and years that I've lived here, I think that I was succumbed to that going at it, you know, until I had my, you know, my breakthrough and my apex of, okay, this is enough, you know, happening. But I think that's what happens is, and of course I know, and I don't know your age, but if I were born 2 months later, I would be a Gen Xer. Instead, I'm a baby boomer. I'm like on the tail end of baby booming.
I'm a
And
Gen Xer.
yeah. So I think it's that whole era of, you know, the first round. I mean, for me, it's the first round of women who have had, you know, powerful, high paying jobs, right? And we fought really long and hard to do that.
Yes.
And now we're tired, right? Now we're tired and we're trying to, you know, embark on our children, you know, or to relay to our children that there's more to it. And so don't do what I did, do what I'm suggesting that you do. And then I'm learning to do, right? Then I'm learning to be present and take more time with you rather than, you know, just saying I'm working and letting the kids think that that's norm. And I have to tell you, some of my clients with COVID are so busy at home now and trying to do all this other stuff that it's still like that. It's just crazy. So I don't think we're out of it yet. But I do think it's just a really sad state of affairs. I mean, I don't know. It just is.
I agree with you. Yes, yeah. I agree. And you know, you brought us to a good spot, because my next question is, how has your past helped create your present?
Yeah. Well, you know, as we were talking in the green room, you know, I have two, I mean, I've got tons of stories, but 2 real stories that I just want to share with everybody here. And the first is that, you know, I'm one of 37 first cousins, but when I was younger and until I was 12 and a half, I was an only child, and I was the only one who was an only child. So I had this very lonely, you know, childhood, and my father was an alcoholic. My mother was a verbal abuser. So I didn't have a sibling to go hide in a closet with, or, you know, in a bedroom while they were fighting and doing, you know, all those crazy things. And, you know, I mean, there was just fighting all the time, fight. And guns involved and throwing things and hitting. I mean, everything was involved. And so it was really tough for me. And I'm talking lightly because I'm trying to get through it quickly for us tonight. Sure. But you know, if I sit in this story, it's not a good story.
Oh, my goodness.
My uncle had come, and he lived next door, and he had came to me and said, you know, Jenny, first of all, he called me Jenny who ain't got a penny. He had nicknames for all of us. Mine happened to be Jenny who ain't got a penny. And of course, I didn't quite understand it. So I always carried a penny in my shoe and went, ha, 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 I do have a penny. But, you know, it wasn't till later that I really understood what it meant. But Jenny who ain't got a penny. And he told me, you know, you're going to be just like your parents. You're going to be poor. You're going to be, he didn't say worthless, but all of that was around worthiness, right? That you're going to be poor. You're going to be an alcoholic. You're going to, you know, have amount to nothing kind of thing. And there was an incident that I won't talk about on the podcast here, but there was an incident that really changed my life. And it was when I was about 9 years old. And I said, you know, enough is enough. And so I'm going to show these people what I can do. And so I became a lifelong pleaser, right? And proving. And I finally got to a point where I said, stop proving to everyone and start living. Stop proving and start living. And I would say that to everyone, regardless of your history. It's like, stop proving to everyone and start living for yourself. And, you know, so I was, straight A student. I was a cheerleader. I played flute and piccolo in the Colorado Springs Symphony when I was in high school. And I was the only one who was in high school at the time, you know, playing in that. I was runner-up Miss Colorado. I was state champion tennis player. I was pre-med. You know, I was like the best at everything. Everything had to be the best because I was constantly proving. Yeah. And that transferred into my work life. And so, oh my gosh, you're so successful and you're such a go-getter and all that stuff. And yep, I won all the awards and I was number one at this, number one at that, and had the big house and had the big car and had all the, you know, like had all these things until one day when, and this was about 12, 13, 14 years ago, you know, I was standing out, well, I was in the restaurant with my family, supposedly at dinner with my family, right? When the phone rang and I said, oh, my client needs me. I got to go outside. And I was walking back and forth on that concrete balance beam. And we've all been on it, right? We're walking back and forth on the little curb and people are coming in and out of the restaurant. And you're nodding to them and saying hello and you're on the phone and no one's getting attention. Your family's not getting attention. I'm not paying full attention because I'm worried about getting back in with the family. I can't take notes, right? So I look like an idiot when it comes time to calling my client back and have to ask the same questions over and over. And so the client's not getting served. So it's a lose, lose, lose for everybody. And I happened this one time, and this wasn't the first, and it wouldn't be the last because I had to learn how to do this. But I looked into the window of the restaurant and there they were again, creating memories without me.
Oh my goodness.
And that was the tipping point. And I said, I can't do it anymore. I don't care. I don't care about all this other stuff. I care that I'm leaving a legacy for my family that isn't financial, that is heart-centered. And I had to make a shift, a major shift. And it took me years and years to learn how to prioritize everything, how to work with intention, how to identify my cores so that the passion was there to get in so I could go play. And my mom had this quote that was, we flatter those we scarcely know. We please the fleeting guests, but we deal many a thoughtless blow to those we love the best.
Oh, yeah.
And she said it over and over and over and over, but it never sunk in until a couple of years after that particular incident happened. And that was the turning point for me. And if I can share how to get out of that chaos with people so that they don't have to experience 20 some years of work like that, and I can share how they can do it now, they're going to have much more fulfilled lives. And here's the funny thing. At the time I was doing $40 to $50 million a year in production, right, in closings. As soon as I figured it out, changed it all up, I went to 100 million. I doubled it. And that's what took me into the top 200. And guess what? I was only working 4 days a week.
That's fantastic.
So I have the code, and that's what, you know, all my courses and stuff are lifestyle business mastery and cracking the top producer code. I cracked the code.
Oh my God. And you know, you said, first of all, what a beautiful story. I mean, really, thank you so much for sharing that. And that's what you hit was that it's the shift point. It's that point, and we all, it's funny, people get that point, but we don't always listen to it. Sometimes the point comes in, and then we feel it in our gut. You felt it enough when you looked back in that window and you saw, like as if you were watching a movie, you saw what was happening and you said, that's it. But there's so many people who just, they feel it and they fight it. They fight it for a lot of reasons. It's fear, it's the unknown, it's what if, it's unfamiliar to them and it's uncomfortable. But you said something very key. You said that it took you years to get it all going, to make the full shift. And I think that's what people have to understand too, is just the first step is the awareness of it. And the second step is to move in that direction and not put the time limit on, okay, I'm going to be shifted by 6 months. Just do it. Just start moving forward. And there's going to be little shifts along the way, and then bigger and bigger and bigger. It's like a snowball, almost a snowball effect. But you have to make that shift. And even if you say 3 weeks in, 3 months in, oh, it's not exactly where I need to keep going. Because sometimes, number one, it's always hard for people to start to make the change. And then number two is to stay on track. So if you say, it took me years, but I think, I'm just going to make an assumption that even in the amount of time that it took you, you were enjoying the ride with the shift.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, not the moral of the story, but if you fast forward to the end of the movie, right? In that context, not yet, thank God, right? But you fast forward, a couple years later, my husband and I were on a 1-month trip in Europe, which was not conceivable at all, because I was so attached to my clients, right? We went to Europe for a full month, and we were sitting on a balcony in Barcelona, and I looked over at my husband. I didn't say anything to him, and I just realized, oh my gosh, I've done it. My business is thriving. My businesses are thriving. I have people working for me that are taking care of the problems that I was just so anxious about, and working till 11 o'clock at night, and 12 o'clock at night, and then driving home for an hour just to get up and do it all again and not sleep at night because I was worried about everything, and here I am doing this. And this is what life is all about. And, because I've been through it, and like you're a coach too, and perhaps you've been through something like that too, because I've been through that, I can guide people on how to accomplish it faster than what it took me. So you can go at it alone, or you can, get some guidance in how to make that change and that shift in your life.
Well, and that's what mindfulness practice also is, because it's the focus on the abundant mindset, like the abundant opposed to scarcity, where you learn something fabulous, then you share it, and it instills it deeper within you, and there's a joy to sharing that information, as opposed to saying, oh, I found out this great information and I don't want to let anybody else know because then they're going to get better than me. And that's sustainable. That type of mindset's not sustainable. There's always
that's scarcity. Right.
Yeah. And so, okay. So you wanted the title for tonight's conversation as "Work on Purpose to Play with Passion." So you've spoken so much about this already. So what little things could you give to the viewers to start with? Like what recommendations to start them in their shift and in their journey?
Yeah. Well, again, identification of your core values. And, so if you have to do it backwards, do it backwards. What just drives you nuts? There are, lots of resources online. I use a very specific one, but there are lots of resources online that have lists of core values, right? From happiness to, spirituality to, just all kinds of, core values.
Google for ideas.
They're just nouns, right? It's like accountability or ethics or, the things that really drive you and, what makes you who you are. And so it's identification of your core values. And once you have your core values identified, the next step is to figure out what makes you happy, what fulfills you. And for me, it's dancing and, playing on the floor with my grandkids. It's listening to meditation music in the morning. It's praying, it's delivering communion to the homebound, or the, you know, the homebound people that are at home or sick or whatever. It's watching ants carry food. I'm so enthralled by that. It's getting out by binoculars and looking out in the woods to see if I can see something I can't see with the naked eye. It's going to dinner with friends. How many times have you gone to dinner finally, and said, we have to do this more often, and then nothing happens?
You're right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's having my husband rub my legs, you know, rub my legs and my feet. It's cuddling with my puppy. What makes you happy? All of it. All of it. And in business, seeing a client buy a house, you know, get a mortgage, seeing, you know, a client lose weight, if that's what you do, you know, having a breakthrough. So what makes you happy? And now what we want to do is combine these so that they're aligned, so that you can get more happiness by using your core values to make the correct decisions in your business, so that you can work on purpose. And so you fill your calendar with the things that you want first, and then you start thinking about what you're going to be doing, you know, from the workspace. And so I would add that the third thing that you would do is identify your hedgehog theory, right? And there's a theory out there called the hedgehog theory. It's 3 different pieces. I call it the trifecta of success, but it's identifying what you absolutely love to do in your work, what you are excellent at, and what is, I don't want to say profitable, but what makes financial sense. So for example, you know, I used to, and I'll talk just about mortgages for a second, but I used to love looking at tax returns for a self-employed borrower, and I am excellent at it. Pardon?
You're probably the only person doing that.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of people who like it. Yeah. But I loved reviewing tax returns. You know, I can't create them, but I can look at them and assess them, how much income is there that would be used for lending. So I would love doing that. And I was really good at it. And in the old days, people would bring piles of tax returns and say, you know, figure it out. In 20 minutes, boom, I'd figure it out. But over time, I started, you know, yes, I'm still good at it, but I started losing, well, I'll say, yes, I was really good at it, but I started losing the love for it. I was starting to resent it, because the time it took me to do it, I could be on the phone talking to another client. And that's what I loved to do, right? Not from the sales perspective, but from the strategic. How do we strategize to make your mortgage more than just a glorified rental, right? How do we do the strategy? And so therefore, it didn't make financial sense for me to spend 20 minutes doing something that I love and that I'm good at, but I was starting to resent because it was keeping me from being able to do something else that I love. And then eventually I wasn't as good at it, right? So it went away. So it's finding out your cores, finding out what fulfills you, and really taking the time, like take days and weeks if you have to. You know, when you see a bird fly above and you hear the noise and you're like, oh, I love that bird, I got to watch more birds, right? Figuring out what you love and really heightening that, and then determining what are you doing in your business that fits this hedgehog theory. And if you're doing things that you don't like doing, then get rid of them, release them, and that'll give you more time to do what you do love to do, and go play every night.
Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. So how can people find you? Of course, my dog starts barking right towards the end. How can people find you, Jen?
Yeah, the best way to find me is to go to JenDuPlessis.com. And I know you'll put the link in the thing there. That's just the best way to get me. I am never afraid to share my number. My number is 703-864-4597. So 703-864-4597. I'm on the East Coast, so don't call me at 11 o'clock at night when it's only 8.
That's right.
But because I'll be sleeping, because I go to bed very, very early. But yeah, I mean, I love doing that. But, you know, call me and leave a message, or text me and say, hey, you know, I heard this and I'd like to just have a chit chat. You know, I'm really struggling with my core values, or, you know, I want to find out where you're speaking or what your coaching is, you know, any of that. I'm here to serve. That's really what I'm here to do.
You have podcasts.
Strategy session. I have 2 podcasts. Yeah.
So tell us about the podcast before we go.
Yeah, well, the first podcast is Mortgage Lending Mastery. I started it 5.5 years ago. So I'm one of the original veterans in podcasting. It's the #1 rated in my space and the longest running. And, I'm serving realtors and loan officers and other entrepreneurs. It's really morphed into personal and professional growth. So go check it out because there's so much personal and professional growth. There's little tidbits about mortgages that you may not understand, but most of it is about personal and professional growth. And then after I retired from lending, I was going through another quandrum of, now what do I do? I had an identity and now I don't have that identity the way that I had it before. And so I started a podcast called Success to Significance, Life After Breaking Through Glass Ceilings. And it's not financial ceilings, it's all ceilings. Because once you break through one, it becomes your floor, and then you've got another one anyway. So I have some beautiful, beautiful people on this podcast, people that have lost hundreds of pounds, people that have broken through emotional issues, and people who have financially broken through, like Frank Shankwitz, who's the founder of Make-A-Wish Foundation, Jeff Hoffman, who is the co-founder of Priceline and the inventor of the kiosks that we use at the airports. These guys are friends of mine. I've spoken on stage with them. Les Brown Jr., Les's son, I travel with him and speak with him. So it's those breakthroughs that people are having. And and it really is sensitive for me or important for me because, I had this long career in this industry that very few people have that kind of a career, that long career. And as a woman, I fought really hard in that career and I was tired, right? And I had made it and I'm successful. But now I believe you learn, earn, and return, right? In your life, you learn, then you earn, and then you return. And I was wavering, like I'm earning, I'm returning. And I just was called to do more returning and more giving to people and sharing how I got to where I got, where I went. And so now that was the significance, right? Now what do I do? And there's so many people that are in that space, losing sleep, saying, I don't like my job. And even with COVID, they're saying, do I want to go back to that?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're saying, what do I do? So the guests on the show are thinking about it, are in the midst of doing it, are right in it, or have come through it, and they're sharing all the stories and their tactics on how they did it.
Yeah, that's great. That's a fantastic podcast. I think that would be absolutely wonderful for people to check out. So thank you. And thank you so much for coming on. You really are badass, my friend. You really are. You are quite an amazing lady. You have done so much. I know we froze just for a moment, but
yeah, I held still.
You I love it. I think that, you touched on so many really important things tonight for people to take away with. The other piece, and I'm not calling anybody out on this but my transformation came late in life. You came to that shift point late, and it's never too late. That's just it. The moment you decide to shift and just change, that's the moment it was supposed to be. And
yeah,
don't ever have that conversation. Don't ever have those words come out that it's too late.
yeah.
Do it.
No, I'm always reinventing myself. I'm a life learner, and I'm always thinking of new strategies and new ways to explain things and stories to tell. And I think that's what life is all about, is just having that awareness. I think for me, with Savers in the morning was, scribing, which is just journaling, right? And I'm not a great journaler. I'm a great bullet pointer because I'm a high I and a D in disc profiling, right? I love people. And then I'm like results oriented. So I just want bullets, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, this happened. I'm grateful for this. I'm grateful for that, but I don't like write it all out. But I think it's important to do that scribing in our lives, because then we can reflect back and say, gosh, that thing that happened really did change my life. And I didn't realize it did. And what a great story to tell your children or your grandkids, or, and again, my mom used to say, in 100 years, it won't matter. I'm a German, so my house is like clean, right? Everything has to be centered and everything, right? And measured, and it's crazy. And I'm not OCD. I just naturally have this. But she's like, in 100 years, that won't matter. What matters is, did you play with your kids on the floor and read them a book, not clean the house, right? And so I figured out a way to do both. Right? So I'm very efficient, but I'm not cleaning and trying to read at the same time. I'm doing something 100% and then hopping over and doing something else 100%, and that has to wait. Yeah, that's the challenge for people.
And that's so important, especially in a world where, you know, research is telling us that we have the attention span of a goldfish, which is like 3 seconds.
9 seconds, yeah.
And so when you, I mean, that's beautiful. It's like you said, focused attention, focus. And it takes practice, and it's not going to be, you're never going to be able to do it right away, but just to have the drive to push yourself to do it, because this is for you. This is for you. In the end, it's for your family, and it's,
And that's why I said to have the strength to say yes to yourself and no to your clients. And that is a strength you have to build, and the discipline that you have to build. But the bottom line is, Jim Rohn said this: if you don't discipline yourself, everybody else will.
Yes, absolutely.
With their agenda. And so I'll add, with their agenda.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, you are right. You're absolutely right. Well, Jen, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Oh, thank you.
It was a thrill to have you. I am going to post your information, and please, reach out to her. She gave you the invite to do so, but definitely check out that podcast because, and her website, because I think everyone would benefit from this information. And like I said, she's a very cool, badass lady, and she has some, and with a beautiful, very compassionate heart. So that's a fantastic combination. So again, Jen, thank you so much for coming on tonight. And everyone, we will see you next week with our next special guest to be announced. And remember, be you, be real, be extraordinary. Thanks so much. Take care.